Hello again, it's April here, and today I've got a material video for you. It's the Karst stone paper sketchbook and woodless pencils. So they sent these to me like they did a lot of people online, it seems, to test out. It was a gift, and I figured since I was going to be filming for a little reel, might as well make a whole video. So this is the sketchbook here. It's made from stone paper, and you can like tear out the pages, I guess. It doesn't really lay flat at all, which is, I mean, some people find that more annoying than others. I'm okay with that, I guess. And it's got a really nice soft cover, which is going to get very grubby. I think it picks up a lot of fingerprints and dirt. And then we have the woodless watercolour pencils, which I've seen other people use, and they looked really nice, so I was very happy to receive these. I had some trouble getting into the box, if I'm going to be honest. It didn't seem like anyone else was having that struggle, but I guess I'm just special like that. And they come in this kind of like display that stands up. I guess some people like that, but for me, I like to have everything kind of scattered around me on my desk, and I didn't really know what to do with them, so I ended up just taking them out one by one and popping them all over my desk in a big mess, which is what I like. So they're woodless, which is what I was really drawn to, no pun intended, because you can use them like on the side. You could probably break them, you could probably sharpen little bits off and stuff and use them as paint. You can do a whole bunch of stuff with them, I'm sure. I actually just spent the first 10 minutes with them, arranged them into a lovely little rainbow here, so I could do the obligatory swatching. So here they all are in their rainbow-ness. And then I kind of rushed through the swatching phase here a little bit. I do show you all the colours, but the colours don't have any names. I did search all the pencils and the box and everything. I didn't look online. I guess I could, but I'm pretty lazy, so I probably won't. But they didn't seem to have names, so I guess that you'll just learn the colours as you use them. And also, the colours are pretty accurate to like the actual pencil form, so I don't think it's going to be much of a problem, to be honest. I think with me and like pencils and things, I actually just learn the colours that I like, and sometimes I remember the names. Pretty sure that I don't remember a lot of them. You can see there, I'm just kind of pointing to like that scratch in the paper. This is one thing that I found the paper did, was get these little marks in it. I don't know if that's from like me or something else, because I don't remember scribbling on it with my pencil, with like a white pencil or my finger. But they just had all these marks on them, and as you were kind of drawing over it, they came out. But it wasn't like too big of an issue. I only found that happened a couple of times, so it probably was just marked a little bit like on the first page. And then this first page is basically a hot mess. I thought, wouldn't it be nice just to kind of swish all the colours together and see what they like, but it just ended up being super muddy because I've never used this stone paper before, and I didn't realise how smooth it was. It has negative texture. Like, it doesn't even have a little bit of texture at all. It doesn't have no texture, it has negative texture. It's almost like it repels the product from it. But it was really interesting to draw with. I actually liked it a lot, drawing with it, and especially later on in the video when I use other materials as well as the woodless pencils, I really enjoyed it. But at this stage, I was thinking to myself, well, that is some abstract art that you've created there, and I guess we'll just see how it dries. Look how glossy it is when it's wet though, it's so pretty. But because I probably won't be using that stone paper a lot in my work after I've like played around in that sketchbook, I grabbed out my Etcher sketchbook and I did the swatches again in that sketchbook so I could see the texture, how they mix on different paper, things like that. And I also did this page here, which was kind of like mixing pairs of colours together. So I just picked them in random, what I thought what colours would look nice together. And I did, like, for example, pink plus green, and then I did a mix of them, and then I did that mix plus white, which I will be mixing up in a second. That's what it looks like on the Etcher paper, which I actually like much more. It has more control, I think, and I really like the texture of textured paper. One thing that I found when I was mixing these little circles together is the paint, if you didn't put a lot of the watercolor down, it almost like they disappeared. Especially when I go back to the Karst sketchbook later. So here they are side by side. You can see the Etcher sketchbook has this beautiful like texture where they've all kind of merged in with each other. They do go a tiny bit dull, but I really like them. And then this one here it took so long to dry. I had to be really patient. It took about a day and a half to dry. There was so much water on it, but they've kind of rolled into each other. There is some amazing texture here, but they all kind of made a mess. And then these are some other little marks that I was making myself just by being really heavy-handed, by like carving into the paper with my pencil. So I'm in the Karst sketchbook now, and I wanted to see how much pigment you needed to put down on the page. And this is kind of what I was talking about, how it disappears. So I'm mixing it with the white on this bottom row, and it almost like washes away the paint. I don't know if that's because the page is just so smooth. It was kind of weird though. It was like a magic trick. And I also have found my favorite way of using this paper, and that is by smudging with my fingers. I even went so far as to draw onto my fingers, which worked really well. It was actually quite effective. So I think these pencils would be really fun to test out new things. Oh, and I also shaved some pencil into there. I forgot I did that. So those were all the little kind of swatches and little tests that I did. I spent an evening doing all of that, and then I waited for everything to dry. Then the next night, or like a few nights after, I actually went in with mixed media, because the way I work is by using a lot of different materials with each other. So I wanted to kind of swap out my normal pencils for these pencils. So I have a few of these woodless pencils, I have some paint pens, and I have a few Neo colors. And I'm going to be using like a bunch of different paper here too, so we can kind of test it out. So I've got the Karst sketchbook, some watercolor paper, and then I've got the Etcher sketchbook. And I actually filmed all of this for Patreon. So the reason, like, I'm doing a voiceover now, but I was just literally rambling here. So I cut all the audio out, and I just wanted to kind of cut this together for you so you could see the art. But I was doing this for Patreon. I did it all real time. If you want to check that out over on Patreon, you can follow along and do the drawings with me if you like, but you probably would be bored of them after you watch this video. So I wasn't sure what to draw to test out these pencils, but I have had a whole bunch of photos that have been on my to draw list, and I figured it would be the perfect time to draw some of them. Some of them are a little bit autumny, some of them are of animals and things, or just photos I've taken that have been on my phone for the last couple of weeks. And I actually procrastinated so hard to test out these pencils just because I've been quite busy, and I didn't want to put all of that time in. I just wanted to like be lazy and watch TV. I've been rewatching TV shows right now. I just watched all of Squid Game, and I watched all of Severance, and I'm watching The Sinner, and I haven't even been crocheting while I do it. I've just been watching TV. I have been really burnt out, guys, so I'm just trying to get back into it now. So I was procrastinating super hard, and I thought to myself, what gets me out of it when I'm procrastinating, or when I'm burnt out, or when I'm in an art funk, and that's to do an online drawing session. So I put together all these photos. Some of the photos that pop up on screen, they'll have Martin's name onto them. Those are the ones that he took and he said I could use, so thank you, Martin. And the other ones, the ones that don't look very good, are just from my iPhone. And I'm using a whole bunch of different papers, like I said. So this one here is in my little Royal Talents sketchbook. And I'm basically just drawing how I normally would, but I'm layering the pencils over the tops of the materials. So over the tops are paint pens, and I was going to pop in a couple of my Caran d'Ache luminance pencils, but I didn't in the end. I didn't want to like muddy the waters with the pencils, you know. So it's not too much mixed media, but it's more than just using the pencils, which I'm not really comfortable with just using one type of media. It's kind of a weird thing to admit. It just kind of scares me a little bit. But this was really fun. I had a lot of fun, actually. I just set up this little PDF for myself, literally as if I was going to do a drawing session, like host a drawing session. And I had set times for myself and everything. So these early ones only took 5 minutes. This was a red squirrel. We went to this place called Shapwell's, where they have lots of red squirrels and they give you food so you can feed them and stuff. And the squirrels are so cute. They're really hard to take photos of because they're very fast. Martin managed to take a couple of amazing photos, which I did not do justice, I don't think, with this drawing. I find animals like squirrels, guinea pigs, rabbits, any animal where the eye is like on the side of its head and you can only see one eye, I find them so hard to draw. So I always end up drawing both eyes and they end up looking so derpy. I showed this to Martin and he said it looks like the squirrel from Ice Age, which is a compliment to me. So this photo is from a walk that we did recently, Castle Crag up in the north part of the Lake District. And I really loved this tiny little house that's kind of at the bottom of the photo. I, again, found this super difficult. I was doing this all like real time and talking while I was drawing, and I filmed it for Patreon, and I was explaining on that video just how much I was struggling with this. I think it came out really kind of chaotic and I used way too many materials, and sometimes I just find that I use way too many colors, things get muddy, I don't know, I do the wrong things, but at the end of the day, like, isn't that how we learn? So I try not to be annoyed at myself when it happens, laugh it off and move on. So I moved on and I picked out my favorite part from this photo, which was the house. And this is what I'm doing here. You can kind of see my pencil moving off. I'm actually dipping the pencil into my jar of water. And I did that a lot. I did that maybe 50-60% of the time I was using the pencil, I was dipping the pencil into the water. And it starts off like you get this amazing line that's wet, almost like paint. And then as the water is drying, as you're drawing, it kind of leaves this texture like a marker pen, like a dry marker. It was really cool. That was probably my favorite technique from using these pencils. And then my second favorite technique was probably using the Karst sketchbook itself, because it was so smooth and you could really smush in all of the materials together. And using the paint pens especially, like those two colors in the background are the paint pens, and I just smushed them with some water. Because the paper is made from stone, it doesn't soak in the paint straight away like it would on watercolor paper or like in a Royal Talons. So you can actually like wet the paint pen itself and to create like that paint kind of texture. So I really liked using it like that, and I think I will try and use this sketchbook for more serious stuff over the next few months. Fill it up, but actually try and spend some time to do some actually quite you know, thought out, not, I don't want to say thoughtful, but like thought out drawings rather than these little doodles, because I did find it was a really interesting way of working, something that I think I would have to do a few times to kind of figure out how to, you know, work it to my style and everything. I'd have to become a little bit more patient, I think, with myself. But I think that stone paper could be a really interesting like add-on, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because of all of the sketchbooks I used, it gave the most interesting results. This one here was a view I took of Martin. I thought we could include it because he was very kind in letting me use these photos. And so this one here, I drew into the wet with the pencil a lot. And you can kind of see what I was saying with the lines, how they kind of look like marker pen, like they have a lot of different texture in the line when they go from dry to wet. And I think that just adds a lot. I don't know if they're a lot different from other watercolor pencils I've used, but I feel like they are. I feel like they do have like a different texture than, say, a Derwent Intense. It's almost like the material of the pencil itself comes off onto the page rather than just the pigment, if that makes sense. So yeah, I wasn't really thinking about any of this. It's all coming up now. It's just like a therapy session, but for colored pencils. It's incredible. This is Martin. I had to write his name there so I wouldn't forget. And then the last photo that I do, I actually do two of these. It's of this amazing forest scene that it was at the same walk. So all of those photos that are kind of outside were from the same walk, the same day. And Martin took this photo. It was incredible. It's one of my favorite photos he's ever taken. I think I could paint this photo 50, 100 times and I would not do it justice, because I find forest scenes so difficult and light very, very difficult. It's kind of like my weakness. I think trees are my weakness. So, and like busy scenes like this. I did it once in my Royal Talon sketchbook, which didn't turn out. I wasn't enjoying it. So I moved on to the Karst sketchbook again. And I just tried it again. But I was getting really frustrated at this point. I remember feeling really annoyed because it wasn't going the way I wanted it to. I didn't know how to use it. And I think that's like what I was saying earlier, where I think I just have to use this sketchbook, these materials, or even these materials in a different sketchbook, to kind of figure out the best way to use them, because the colors are a lot different than other pencils I have. They're a lot more vibrant, and like just knowing how much pigment to use, what marks to make, I think that all comes with practice. So, but yeah, I think this turned out well. And the night I was really not enjoying drawing this, but the next day I actually really liked it. So here's all the sketches. I feel like I just rushed through all of that. I've been talking nonstop, but here's all the sketches. So I did this little moon, night, and forest. This is in my Royal Talon sketchbook, so you can see all the kind of texture there. And then this is just on normal W.H. Smith's watercolour paper, so nothing special. This was probably my least favourite to use. And then this was the Etch a Sketchbook, was my second favourite. I really actually love the marks here. And then lastly, we have the Karst sketchbook, which was also really fun to use, a lot different than anything I'd normally use. So that was it, guys. That was the just a quick first impressions of the Karst woodless pencils and sketchbook. I would recommend them. Definitely check them out if you think that it would suit your style of working. Pop them on your Christmas list, maybe. And that was a complete whirlwind of a voiceover. I hope that you managed to keep up with me. I was struggling myself towards the end there. But if you did enjoy the video and watching the process, please consider subscribing, leaving a like or a comment. I'd love to know if you use these woodless pencils as well and what you thought of them. So that's all from me. Have a lovely rest of your week, and I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.